That's something we've been working on for a while, and very thankful for the four mayors that hopped on. Again, as I said, these mayors are from all the counties around District 5. They're small business owners, they're lawyers, they're business executives, they are immigrants, and they are from families that have been here for more than 120 years. So these mayors are truly representative overall of who we are in the district and who we are in the state, which I think is important. But mostly these leaders are people who care. They care about their district, and they care about the direction of the party and the direction of the state. So what I'd like to do is just read a brief introduction for each mayor, and then have the mayor come up and introduce themselves. And then I'll just go down the list. And because we've got a lot of people here and a lot of questions, we'll roll right into it. So I want to start with introducing Carlos Rendo, who's the mayor of Woodcliff Lake. Mayor Rendo, he was born in Cuba, emigrated to the United States as a child. And Carlos grew up in Union City, New Jersey. He currently lives in Woodcliff Lake with his wife, Michele, and their two sons. He moved to Woodcliff Lake in 2000, became a council member in 2013, and ran for lieutenant governor with Kim Guadagno in 2017. In 2015, Carlos became the first Hispanic mayor of Woodcliff Lake. We're so happy to have him here, and Carlos is a dear friend. So, Carlos, why don't you say hello to the gang?
Hello, everyone. Thanks for tuning in, and you can have a good show today.
Awesome. Let me just do one other thing here. It's not going, Cal. It's not even, it's saying that we're live. 1 second. We're asking, stop live stream, so it's in there. So we're good to go. Next, I want to introduce Michele Dale, who's the mayor of West Milford. Mayor Dale is a lifelong resident of the town of West Milford. She's led a successful career in the private sector as a vice president with TD Bank, and brings a wealth of knowledge and experience as she serves the local government and her hometown. Michele, thank you so much for joining us.
It's an honor to be here and work with you on your campaign, and look forward to a good evening.
Awesome. Thank you very much. John Sowden. John is the mayor of Franklin Borough. Mayor Sowden is a lifelong resident of Franklin, has been married to his wife Debbie for 40 years. John's family emigrated to Franklin in 1901 and has been here ever since. John helped form the Franklin Historical Society and served 3 terms on the council before leaving to become the commissioner of the Sussex County Municipal Authority. John was elected mayor of Franklin Township in 2019 and continues to serve the town he loves. Thank you so much, John, for being here as well.
Thank you for inviting me, and I look forward to supporting you and helping you to get the seat you so deserve.
Thank you, John. I appreciate it. Terry Urfer is the deputy mayor of Hope Township in Warren. He received his Bachelor of Science from Fairleigh Dickinson. He served as a treasurer for the Warren County Board Agriculture, and is a member of the Board of Economic Development and a member of the Hope Fire Department. Terry is serving his 3rd year in office and his first as deputy mayor. Terry, thank you so much for being here also.
Frank, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you. I appreciate you bringing light to all the issues, and I'm looking forward to working with you.
Thank you. We're looking forward to working with all the mayors across the district. There's 72 in District 5, and these are 4 that we've had a number of conversations with. I've had conversations with many more, and I look forward to working with all of you guys as well. The format for this is going to be, we've been taking questions for the last 4 or 5 days or so, and I thought would ask a question that was specific to each of the mayors in their town and certainly in their county, and have them answer. And then we've got a bunch of questions that I think we can work around and speak with the other mayors about. And in the meantime, we're going to be taking questions that come in. If you'd like to ask any questions, you can ask via Zoom chat. The first question is for Mayor Dale, and we know that West Milford is 100% in the Highlands Preservation Area. How would you work on behalf of West Milford in considering this is the case?
Yeah, so Frank, West Milford accounts for over 65% of the entire 78,898 acres of the preservation area located in Passaic County. If you compare the township basically to Warren and Sussex County, the total preservation area for West Milford is only 15,000 acres less than the entire preservation area for all of Warren County and 19,000 acres less than Sussex County. So this is a pretty important topic to us. It's been one that I don't believe that we've gotten the support in the past that we've needed. I know that we've made some steps towards getting that support, but we would really need our congressman to step in and help us federally. So we were just wondering how you would support the municipality. We have a growing expense base year over year, regardless of whether or not we hire a new employee or do anything at all. We're already going up 2 and 3% because of our contracts and what have you. So it's an important issue to the Township of West Milford, and we would like to know how you would support us there.
Well, look, I've been going around the townships, and I know Mayor Dale, we've had some conversations about this. We talked specifically about along Route 23 North, and where there's a lot of work that I think we can both do together, not just to raise the revenue base, but to also bring a little more focus to the town. You and I also had a conversation, I remember, on Greenwood Lake, and that's something that I know is very important to you and a number of others. And you wanted to address the funding issue for Greenwood Lake and the lack of support from the state. And I know that other people have asked about the same thing. Did you want to speak a bit about the Greenwood Lake funding issue?
Sure. So Greenwood Lake is a bi-state lake. Half of it resides in New York State and New Jersey, so it's a bi-state lake. And unfortunately, the municipality, again, hasn't received any funding from the state of New Jersey to take care of this lake. And we last year had to face the HAB issue, which was very detrimental to our local economy and our local business owners, and also the taxpayers who live around around the lake. And if you live on a lake or any body of water, you pay higher taxes than anybody else within a municipality. So I think it's extremely important that not only legislatively for the Highlands, but also for the state to start recognizing that West Milford represents a lot of their resources, right? We preserve the water. We account for 65% of the Highlands preservation area. We have the watershed community, which we have 43,676 acres in the township, designated as a protective zone, of which 34,935 acres have been preserved from development. So with that, plus the Newark watershed, plus the fact that we have a state lake, we also have other state properties within West Milford. We've been really good stewards of the land, and I don't think that from a federal level and down onto the state level, we've gotten the recognition that we need as a municipality and the support from a funding standpoint to assist our residents.
Yeah, Mayor, I completely agree with you. I think this is something that's come up, not just with Greenwood Lake and Passaic, but we've had similar stories with Sussex, similar stories with Warren, and stories as well around Bergen County. I just don't think there is the focus in this district that we should have. This district has again, we talked about this earlier. You're talking about high rises to the larger homes, to the farms. And as you mentioned, Greenwood Lake, where you guys are great stewards of the land. And, I think we expect a bit more back. I know there's been discussions about how much funding should be coming back to New Jersey versus what we give. And after 3.5 years, that number hasn't changed. It hasn't moved at all. And I think it shouldn't be lost on anyone that this is something I want to work on. I want to bring back to the district I lived in for the last 30 some odd years what I think we deserve. So Michele, we're going to work on that together. We're going to work on it with the other mayors and make sure that District 5 is a focus again, not just across the state, but in DC also. So I appreciate
Frank,
you
said something interesting that New Jersey hasn't gotten more federal dollars. And I think that's a point to be noted, because we do need to receive more of our federal dollars back to New Jersey, and we haven't received that. And if the federal dollars came back to New Jersey, I think it would be easier for New Jersey to help the municipalities that have been good stewards of the lands and host communities to state property and what have you. So thank you for bringing that point up.
No, I appreciate that, Michele. Thank you. We're going to roll to Carlos Rendo, Mayor Rendo of Woodcliff Lake. And this was a question that came in for you, Mayor Rendo. Taxes are among the most talked about issues across the state of New Jersey. Can you speak to the perception by the public that municipal government has control as to whether our taxes go up and down?
Thank you, Frank. Yeah, we've been speaking about taxes since the 2017 gubernatorial campaign, and we told everyone that our governor was going to raise taxes by the tune of $6.9 billion, and he's keeping to that promise. So it's been very difficult for the municipalities to control the taxes in their own towns. The perception is that municipalities, mayors control everyone's taxes, when the fact is that 64% of your tax base comes from the schools. We have to fund the schools, and 63% of them, they have their own budgets. They pass their budgets, and we have to pay for that. So 63% of the taxes are for the school districts. Our percentage of the taxes is about 20%, and the county's about 10%. So even though we try to reduce taxes, keep it at zero, even try to give a rebate, your taxes may still go up if the school district raises your taxes, which in our school district, they raised our taxes this year by a tune of 2.5% on the local level and 1.98% in a regional high school. So even though our municipality is trying to go at a zero budget, our residents and will probably receive a tax increase because of the increase in the school budgets. And also the county hasn't set their budget neither. So I'm assuming with this pandemic that they're going to increase taxes also on our municipalities.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, because you've already heard Governor Murphy come out and talk about, being in the hole, and they're going to need some federal assistance. They were driving this thing downhill for a long time before this even happened. Between the underfunded pension and things like that, they're using this pandemic as an excuse to look for more funding. And I know that the mayors that are on this call, and a lot of the good, solid Republican mayors around Bergen County, are doing exactly what you're doing, Mayor Rendo, which is trying to keep our taxes lower. But there's only so much control we have when the state is in the hands of a party that kind of feels as though fiscal conservative is not the path.
So for our district, for example, during the campaign, Governor Murphy stated publicly that properly funding school districts will lower everyone's property taxes. So here's what happened. He funded the school district, but he funded the school district in the urban districts, and he forgot about districts in Sussex and Warren and Huntington and Bergen County. So, our funding is flat. So with, mandated expenses and contracts, we need the help, which we're not getting from the government. Obviously, Murphy his focus is on the urban areas, but not in areas like ours.
Yeah, no, that's an issue, and certainly something I'd like to work with you and the other mayors on trying to get some pretty good focus on. I appreciate that. Thank you, Carlos. Next, I want to roll to Mayor Sowden, and this is something that was a big deal coming out of the early stages of the crisis time. Out of the $3.4 billion of funding that was allocated to New Jersey in the CARES Act passed by Congress, Sussex and Warren counties received zero funding. In fact, there were only 4 counties in all of New Jersey that were left completely out of the funding, and District 5 had 2 of those 4 counties. As a leader of a town in a state that was hardest hit by the crisis, John, how do you feel about this egregious and obvious oversight, and where could your communities have used that CARES Act funding?
Well, I was devastated when I found out that we were not getting the funding. I was trying to help a couple of small business owners to apply for this stuff through our county economic development committees, and all of a sudden we just heard this, and I was flabbergasted. But then I saw Steve Orho, Senator Orho, and I saw that they had responded back to the governor's office along with Assemblyman Space and Worth, and they put a big stink about it, and they tried to do everything they could to get that funding to us, because I mean, our businesses are no different than businesses in Newark or any other city. We have small businesses everywhere, and small business drives this country. I know I was in my own business for over 29 years. It was a real wrestling match, and every business person I talk to, nothing has changed, and now it's even tougher on them to survive. And I just feel so sad because I was in their shoes years ago, and now I'm trying to figure out ways to do these things. And I think, as we move along with our legislative team and yourself being involved there, we're going to have a strong voice that Trenton's going to hear, and so is the federal government.
Yeah, John, it's terrible that again, two of the four districts were two of the four counties that were not protected were in this one district, and I don't think that's a coincidence. I think it's a failure of leadership. It seems like when the leadership in DC points to, the sub leaders at the different states, and they say, this is what you're going to do, they don't argue. We've seen that. We've seen that with discussions around the impeachment. We've seen that with discussions around minimum wage and things like that. And the job, and it's one of the reasons I've been so adamant about pushing on this, is this should be an easy job. You listen to your district. You figure out what's important in your district, and that's your job. If you truly represent your district, you're supposed to go to DC and say, this is what I need. And to have four counties in all of New Jersey not get the funding and have two of those be Josh's district is just mind-boggling. So, it's something it's a little more than a year now that I've been out and meeting with everyone and meeting people like Carlos and John, you and Michele. We've just started having some in-depth conversations, and there does need to be focus. There needs to be focus on this district, and I think that focus needs to be pretty loud down in DC. I want to roll to Deputy Mayor Urfer. We had a question that came in. It may not be very well known, but there are large sections of Warren County that are unable to receive any internet connection whatsoever. We're not talking about spotty or bad service. We're talking about no ability to connect at all. Can you explain why this is the case, and particularly in this environment, speak to the dangers of having that sort of situation?
Great. Appreciate you having me tonight. So obviously, it's really more apparent now with the virus, the problems that we're having, that we need it for educating our kids. We need it for communicating, understanding the virus, how we're supposed to act. For businesses, everybody working at home. I mean, I'm lucky at my house, I'm getting a speed of 7 right now. If somebody turns on something else here, a movie or something, we'll be down to almost nothing. The problem, as we understand it, we have CenturyLink and we have Service Electric, and they want 15 houses a mile to run something down. But even if they run it down our streets, our houses are far enough back from the roads that they want a huge amount to hook up to. To bring a line underground from the telephone pole to my house, which is about less than 400 feet, they want $3,500 from me. There are people in my town getting quoted $10,000 even if they run the line down there. When we 100 years ago wanted to bring power to this country, we ran power up to Walpack, which was 50 miles out of the way to no place to houses. Somehow, it's not something a town can do, a city or a state. It's going to be federal funding. And hopefully, when the infrastructure bill goes through, it's not just about bridges, that you can start bringing the internet to us. I have an expert on the internet that will talk for just a quick second rather than just read his notes, but I'm going to let James Moore give you a little presentation for a second.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Terry. I really appreciate the opportunity. I've been working with the mayor and the committeeman in Hope for about 4 or 5 years on internet in rural New Jersey, and actually went down to the state DPU about 2.5 years ago to talk about this. The FCC itself defines core broadband as 25 meg down and 3 meg up. And I'm going to share with Terry a presentation I gave to the state DPU that actually shows that there's a geopolitical boundary that goes around Warren, Sussex, and Hunterdon counties. And if you were to look at the megalopolis that goes all the way from Norfolk, Virginia to Bar Harbor, Maine, there's one small section that shows that there's less than 10 meg on average down and 1 meg on average up. And that's Warren, Sussex, and Hunterdon counties. Oh yeah, the Pine Barrens, but no one lives there. Sorry, I don't mean that as a bad thing, but very few people live in the Pine Barrens. And our Governor Murphy, has talked extensively about how New Jersey is the most densely populated state in the country. 77% of the country has broadband that meets the FCC's criteria. But where Warren County and Essex County have population densities far in excess of areas, even like Pocono County and Lehigh Valley counties in Pennsylvania, and we don't have nearly the equivalent broadband. We have right now a merger that's going on, for example, between Altice Communication and Service Electric. I think that the state PPU should be able to step up and indicate that providing better service has to be part of that. Unfortunately, in the state of New Jersey, the BPU doesn't have any jurisdiction over internet, only power, telephone, and service. And when we, as Terry said, when we look back 120 years ago almost, when the REA was brought into effect, it wasn't because we wanted to be able to create a capitalist system, although capitalism is great. It wasn't that we wanted a capitalist system to feed the utilities. In fact, it was quite the opposite. There was a recognition that it was rural America that needed to be able to have these type of core services and utilities that brings that and facilitates the lifestyle that everybody across the country needed to be able to have. And Terry, having been part of the agricultural and farm community for so many years, has an active involvement there as well, because so much of what we do today with the agricultural society, from applying for grants and all types of other things, they all have to be done online today. And where people don't have that type of service, they can't even achieve that. It's really a travesty. Again, I have a presentation I presented to the BPU. The data itself is all from the FCC's website. Mm-hmm. All actually shows true reporting from the FCC and the census and all the other things. So I'll make sure that that's available to everybody that's on this presentation.
Terrific. I appreciate that. Thank you so much, Terry, for having him on. Terry, you and I also talked previously about the infrastructure bill. And, I know when there's discussions around infrastructure in District 5, it's about the Gateway Tunnel. This is just as critical. I mean, the Gateway Tunnel is obviously important, but when you talk about infrastructure, when you started to tell me about just the inability to get any service, it was mind-boggling. Then the crisis hit. And, I'm in Mahwah. There are sections of Mahwah that don't get cell service, and it drives people crazy. I can't imagine not having any internet service, particularly in a time like this. So, these infrastructure issues are important, Terry, and everyone on here. And, it's something that I feel strongly about. And I just want to make sure that everybody knows this is something that I'm going to work pretty hard on as well. We've got another couple questions that have come in. This is something I think everyone kind of asks, but it has to do, I know you all have dual roles in the private sector as well as in your government roles. It's changed a lot, obviously, in the last 90 days or so. What is a normal day for you? I want to roll to Carlos first. What does a normal day for you look like? Because I know, you were juggling like crazy even before this crisis. What is a normal day for you like now with the crisis and juggling your legislative duties?
A lot of Zoom meetings. But no, it's that's for sure. It's a lot of these meetings. I'm an attorney and I have a full-time practice in North Bergen, New Jersey, and it's been difficult. Look, the courts have been closed. The work has stopped. Clients have stopped paying. So I have to juggle that responsibility with the municipal responsibility, signing one executive order after another, receiving the recommendations of our Office of Emergency Management. We have, 4 nursing homes that we're juggling. And as you know, they were hit hard during this pandemic. And at the same time, dealing with our recycling, our public works. It has not been easy, but this is the job we signed up for, and I love it every day. I love going into Borough Hall and trying to help the people, and at the same time helping my clients in my legal practice. So, yeah, this has thrown a wrench into all of our lives, but we're survivors in New Jersey, and we're survivors in the 5th District, and I'm sure we'll get through this together, and we've been doing that. So let's keep the faith, and hopefully we'll get out of this and continue with our boroughs and our municipalities and and continue servicing our residents.
Appreciate it. Mayor Dale, I wanted to ask you the same question because I know that I've listened to you talk about some of the issues, not just in your town, but in the district. And you are laser focused on the numbers, you're laser focused on the issues. And, you know, obviously you hold down an executive position as well. How's your life changed with this?
So, you know, I work with, I think, 99% of the municipal folks that I work with have been amazing and amazingly supportive of me, and understanding that we're in a time of crisis, but at the same time, we're a resilient township. We've been incredibly lucky that we've had a low number of positive cases of COVID-19 in West Milford. And we have a community that just bands together, I think, in times like this, and has wholeheartedly supported me, our municipal staff. We've had struggles, but at the end of the day, if it weren't for the great people I work with on a daily basis, I don't think it would have been as easy to accomplish what we've accomplished in West Milford, even during this time. And I, you know, as an executive of the bank for over 20 years, representing retail clients on top of it, which makes it a little bit more interesting. It's definitely been a learning curve for me, and I can say that I've wholeheartedly embraced that part of my career in conjunction with my representation of the residents of West Milford, and understanding and learning something new every day. Who knew when we all took the oath of office in January that we would be faced with a national pandemic to have to manage through? But it's been difficult, but I've also received, I think, the support personally, professionally, and from the town that I represent in order to get me through this time. So it's a lot of late nights, a lot of hard work, but we signed up for that, and we'll continue to do that job and work together and make sure that we all come through this as best as we possibly can.
Thank you, Mayor Dale. That's a good point you bring up. And, you know, I know that I've talked for the last year to a number of mayors and other elected officials in across the district. And this thing has really hit hard. And your point about putting your head down and kind of moving and working, you know, working to look ahead to the next issues. It's tough. I know there are some people on this call that lost parents and in-laws through this crisis. And, you know, whenever I reached out to John, you know, John was eager to answer. He was eager to help, even though he was going through his own issues. So I commend all these elected officials and council members and people like that. And that is something about, and I don't want to overuse the term Jersey strong. I mean, people understand, especially our elected officials and our folks like John Azzariti who are running, that it's a job you've got to juggle. If you can't, you're in the wrong job. So I commend, Mayor John Rucco and others that have kind of not really pushed aside, but looked at everything going on in their life and focused on what happens when you put your hand on the Bible and you say, I'm here to help people. So I do commend you.
Thank you.
This is for John Sowden. I know you're a small business owner. You were a small business owner for a while. We know there are also 19,000 small businesses in the district that many of them are struggling now. But one of the questions we got was small businesses are the backbone of our communities. Governor Murphy's directive on both small and major businesses have drawn significant criticism from across the state. How are the small businesses in your town coping with the difficulties of the current climate?
Well, they're coping as best they can, whether they're using their own personal funds or trying to get notes, things of that nature. It's just a constant struggle for them. And my concern is that if this continues on much longer, they're going to be looking at this struggle and saying, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? And it's time to say goodbye. And even when I see a business that may only last a year or two, I look at that and I feel a sorrow for that, because I realize what pressures and what's involved with it. And I think you have a very good understanding of that too. And I think that's what's going to make a difference as we move forward and get through this pandemic.
I appreciate that, John. And you and I talked about this, and it boggles the mind that our governor spent his career in a position in investment banking where you're supposed to understand micro and macroeconomics, and how he's not focusing on, and I don't want to say shifting from the health, because the health crisis is definitely an issue. The economic health of any state, of any country, of any town is just as important. And when you flippantly talk about and you use phrases like the data will determine, you know what? You've got to take in all the data. One piece of data does not determine one date. You've got to take this in holistically. And I just don't understand. I don't understand what this guy looks at. When I saw his budget a couple years ago, I said, that guy could not have worked at Goldman Sachs. He would have gotten fired his first week in the business if he submitted a budget like that. For the way he's handling this crisis. This is a crisis of leadership from people who have spent their career at one of the largest investment banks around. We even look at our current congressman who spent his career in politics. He spent his career in the White House. He's seen crises up and down over the last 2 decades. How people like that are not coming out and providing a voice for the people of the 5th District just drives me crazy. So we could talk hours about this, but I wanted to run to Terry as well and ask the same small business question. How are you handling some of the small businesses and the folks that you know in your county?
I appreciate the question. It is amazing how much additional food we need for food pantries. I'm running truckloads of food up to pantries. Again, with slow or lack of internet, even if you have internet, the unemployment insurance thing is just a total fiasco from the people I'm talking to. They're getting denied even though they're supposed to get it. You're supposed to call some number. You can't get a hold of some number. If you're supposed to apply, you're supposed to apply within a 30-minute schedule to get into it. You have to know the dates and stuff like that. We have the Land of Make-Believe and Hope, and that's completely shut down. I mean, how devastating that is to the youth that want to work there, for the business owner. The business owners are hitting me constantly with worries of, obviously, the decrease in revenue. I mean, they've been just hammered. Either they're shut down completely or they're getting nothing. We have a hairdresser that can't even open and things like that. There's issues with unruly customers because there's some people that don't quite believe this. Some people over-believe it. They're really worried about what's going to happen even after we open up. If people are going to venture out like they were, they're still going to be afraid. One of the key issues, which you could work on at the federal level, is to get some liability insurance so that we don't have to worry about the lawsuit. So it'll be some kind of protection of these businesses, because 90%, I don't know, some huge percent of legislators that happen to be lawyers, or 90 some odd percent of the lawyers are fighting this. There ought to be protection. You shouldn't have to worry about being sued. That's one of the things they're worried about. They're also worried about the resurgence of the virus coming back. It might permanently shut these people down. They're also concerned that the motivation. There are people that, I'll give an example. I won't tell you who, though. The person was earning $200 a week gross working part-time. Gets laid off, gets something like $120 a week now for unemployment, plus the $600. So the young lady's getting $720 a week when she used to get $200 gross. I don't think the $600 is even taxable. She hopes it never opens up. I mean, so small businesses they're really worried about the cure being worse than the disease almost.
No, I understand. Look, I've gone over on this. I mean, we wanted to keep this at 30 minutes. We can have this thing go for another 45, I'm sure, and talk through this. But dinner is waiting. And Carlos, I think you're cooking this evening. I'm not really sure.
Yeah, I'm feeding everyone on here.
Everyone
All right.
in Carlos's house.
Come to Woodcliff Lake.
Hey, I wanted to thank everyone, not just for joining, but our guests as well. I know that you guys have crazy schedules, and when I reached out, I got 4 responses like that, and there were only more, absolutely willing to help any way they could. They're also making themselves available. They wanted me to let everyone on here know that if they do have questions and you wanted to reach out to them either through us or directly, these guys are a wealth of knowledge. They're wholly dedicated, not just to their towns, not just to their counties, but to their districts as well. So again, I appreciate everyone's time. Thank you so much for being here. I see lots of great faces. Susan Enderly, nice to see you. To the mayors, again, thank you so much for your time, and we'll see you guys in another week or so. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye now.
Bye.